Thanks. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, so nice. Even with like the after lunch food coma setting in. Okay, I'm going to talk about developing with accessibility in mind.
Hello, I'm Chandra.
I'm Chandra. I work at a small consultancy as a web developer. It's called Econify. I just went through a 7-month developer training program called the Turing School of Software and Design in Denver, Colorado, and learned how to program. I'm going to be talking today, as most people have been, about accessibility, and more specifically about accessibility and software. We want to design our websites and other pieces of technology to be inclusive and to be able to be accessed regardless of device used for the access point. So we want something to be understood regardless of the adaptive technology used or regardless of the browser that is used. So most developers ask me, well, why should I care? Why should I do this? And we as developers build software for people. We want to please our users. We want to make it a good user experience to be able to use a website as a fully abled person. So we need to think of who we should consider. We want to think of the types of impairment. A lot of people jump to visually impaired when you think of accessibility in software. So we also want to think beyond that. We want to think of auditory, mobility, speech, cognitive, and neurological impairments when we think of accessibility. And we want to, I'll dive into a little bit of all of those today, maybe not fully cover everything because there's a lot to cover. But we also want to think of how someone might access this content that we have provided for our users on the web. We want to look at assistive technologies used, like most people think of screen readers right away. We want to think of screen magnifiers as well. We want to think of braille displays, voice control, eye gaze, switch access, pedal access, and things like assistive touch. There are plenty more, but those are some of the general ideas we want to cover. I have a great quote by Tim Berners-Lee, who's the creator of the World Wide Web, and he wanted the web to be very accessible from day one. He says, "The power of the web is in its universality. Access by everyone, regardless of disability, is an essential aspect." So I want to ask you today, do you think that we've upheld these values? And sort of think about that as we explore this a little more. And let me divert a little bit for a moment. Most people ask me, why am I interested in this subject? You're young, you don't seem to have like a lot of impairments, which I think is maybe the wrong question to be asking in general, but I started out at my adult life as an art history major. I have a degree in art history, and I was focused in accessibility there. And then I went and did some work with the Denver Art Museum and accessibility, so props to all of our, where did you go? Oh, the Met over here. I love accessibility when it comes to museums. I think it's wonderful, and I'm very happy that more museums are focused on it now. Another essential aspect of why this is important to me is my mother. This is a picture of my mom and I. It is us wearing incredibly ridiculous glasses. I have ones on that make my eyes look much bigger than they are, and she has some glasses on that are, I don't know, maybe like twice the width of her entire face. So they stick out quite a bit on the end. So one thing that we have in common is that we're both software developers. One thing we do not have in common is our sight. She is blind. She's completely blind, and she's been developing software for 39 years. She just retired this year, though, so congrats to her. Also, happy birthday, Mom. shouldn't only think of visual impairment when we think of accessibility on the web. I'll start off there because it's important to, it's what launched me into this path. We want to think of people who are not only completely blind, but partially sighted, who have low vision, who are colorblind as well. A lot of people wonder what else you use other than maybe like a braille display. Other than a screen reader, and that would be a braille display, which is a little braille keyboard essentially. Actually, that's maybe not a good description of it. It has a row of braille that displays text that is on the screen, and you can sort of mouse around with a few different button points. Another technology is a screen reader, and there are many varieties out there. Apple products now come accessible out of the box. They have actually since the early days, which is great. A lot of developers or computer users in general accidentally turn on their Apple screen reader, which is called VoiceOver, and it's very confusing and frustrating to turn off because the screen is talking to you and you don't know what's going on. But anyway, some other ones used are Windows. Windows has Window Eyes and JAWS and Chrome. NVDA, yes. Didn't put that on here.
And narrator is actually supposed to be somewhat usable now.
Yeah. Narrator's usable. Chrome is actually built by Chromium as well, or Chromium is built by Chrome for Chrome, and you can also see that on a Chromebook. So those are some things to test out if you are interested, or if you have not used all of them, feel free to take a look. So screen readers traverse the DOM, which is the document object model, which is on all web pages. It typically looks like our HTML tags, the head, the body, and your ending HTML tag. And within that can be all sorts of focusable events that the screen reader can latch onto, like images, navigation, paragraph, labels, columns, heading level 1 through 6, buttons, and link tags or A tags. And something else that we can use in order to attach more of focusable elements onto our initially focused elements are ARIA tags, which are, as we saw earlier, assistive rich internet applications, and they contain things like role attributes, which define a general type of object like alerts or checkboxes, status, scroll bar, dialogue, radio, timer, and option. Another thing that you can do is I'll switch back to that if anyone wanted to take a peek. States and properties are other useful things that you can attach onto information, like a progress bar that will be updated as you progress through a form field, or a live region that will be updated as you enter text. With that in mind, I want to show you through a website, Home Depot, many of us are familiar with, home improvements. So, as a visual user, we're going to jump into a user story. As a visual user, I want to log in, I want to search, I want to read main content, I want to browse categories, and maybe I want to find my nearest location, find a store. For the visual users in the room, we typically see our main content at the top, or not our main content, rather our navigation bar. We see our store finder, our navigation, more navigation, a search bar, login, etc. So I will try out a voiceover demo with my Apple voiceover here. And first I want to let you know what's going on in this demonstration. I'm going to crouch down here.
Do you want me to hold the mic?
No, use the
Oh no, I'm okay. Thank you. So there will be a box around the element that's selected. You can see that up top. And down here below, I'll get out of everyone's way, we will see what is being displayed in our voice over. So it will tell us what it's talking, what speech it's saying out loud, and let's give it a go.
Interact with Spring Black Friday Savings HTML content. Build link to Home Depot. Link group. Link image. Message to our customers. Visited link image. hd-logo.png. Link card. Link tool and truck rental. Link installation services and repair. Link gift cards. Link help. Your store. Link Santa Fe number 1505. Internal link. Use current location. Or internal link. Find store.
So
Okay.
here we have one of our user stories out of the way. We can find our store, our nearest location, or whatever other store we might want to visit. Let's see if we can knock a few other user stories out of the way, like finding the navigation or reading the main content.
Link local ad. Link store finder. Link credit center. Link specials and offers. Internal link shop by department. List 16 items. Link appliances. Link bath and faucets. Link blinds and decor. Link building materials. Link doors and windows. Link electrical. Link flooring and area rugs. Link heating and cooling. Link kitchen. Link lawn and garden. Link lighting and ceiling fans. Link outdoor living. Link paint. Link plumbing. Link storage and organization. Link tools and hardware. End of list.
So we have another one of our user stories out of the way. It looks like we found our navigation and we can possibly visit any part of the store we want on the website. But we haven't found the search quite yet, and we haven't maybe been able to log in. And keep in mind that, as we talked about earlier, a lot of blind and low vision users have their screen reader speed cranked up, but it's a little slower for everyone to be able to understand. That's okay though.
Internal link. Search all. List 17 items. Search all. Clickable. Internal link. Appliances. Internal link. Bath. Internal link. Building materials. Internal link. Decor.
Does anyone see what's going on here and where we are and what list we're in? And it sounds a little bit repetitive at this point. We just touched
Basically the same
on,
list, yeah.
yeah, it sounds a lot like the same list. So it turns out we are inside of this search all sub-nav of the nav, or we're not really sure what's going on.
Menu, like search
Yeah.
all is expanded, but it just didn't actually expand.
Yes,
It's like search by department.
yeah, so it's very repetitive.
Yeah.
You can see that we're repeating the same elements. Decor, decor. Let's try again.
Internal link. Doors and windows. Internal link. Electrical. Internal link. Flooring. Internal link. Heating, venting and cooling. Internal link. Kitchen. Internal link. Lighting and ceiling fans. Internal link. Lumber and composites. Internal link. Outdoors. Internal link. Paint. Internal link. Plumbing. Internal link. Storage and organization. Internal link. Tools and hardware. End of list.
That's a little exhausting. And we, as visual users, are given the luxury of not having to traverse that every single time. And we can maybe do it very quickly. We know what we can skip over, but here we can't. So we still haven't been able to search. Let's give it a try.
What can we help you find? Clickable. What can we help you find? Search text field.
Woohoo!
Button.
Yay! But what is a button? Did you hear that? Button.
That's actually legal on 508. It's right next
Yeah.
to the search field.
Yeah, it's just something that might be a little confusing to our users. So we talked about earlier having roles as buttons, and that is good. Sounds like it is legal on the 508 guidelines, but you can be a little disoriented here. So we might want to look at changing that if we are designing our website or building our website, and we still haven't been able to log in, so we can try and maybe do that here in a second.
Can I just make a quick comment about that 508 piece?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because this is an excellent example of where 508 potentially is behind the times to the current spec, which is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.0. And as a blind screen reader user myself, hearing that button, even though it's by the search field, if I decide to bring up a list of buttons using the rotor, or if I were to be going button by button in any other method, as an end user, forget the letter of the law, that wouldn't pass as a usable experience. So I challenge all of us, who, even if you're having to pass for 508, think about, well, sure, that might pass 508, but at the end of the day, is that really a usable experience?
Right.
I don't know that any enforcement group I've worked for has ever passed that. I don't think so.
I'd like to pause the discussion and return it to the talk. This is a can of worms. All right, Chandra, take it away.
Okay, we're still trying to log in. One more user story to knock out.
Link, DIY projects and ideas. Link, sign in. Press link, sign in. Or link, register. Link, your account. Link, shop mulch offer. Link, shop all savings.
So I tried to click the link here, and for those of us who are low vision or who are blind in the audience, there's a modal window that popped up for the sign in, but the focus was not obtained by it, and our focus is stuck behind on the normal website, trying to search for mulch and other things. We still can't log in. So I tried really hard to log into this site. They might have fixed it since I did this recording, but I couldn't log in. I really couldn't. It was a little sad. So was this successful? We can't skip to our main content. There are a lot of things that are repeated. We can't log in. We can't really search in a clear way. The nav button has been pushed down, and the search has gotten incredibly lost in our navigation. Let's jump into low contrast websites. As software developers, we tend to turn our text editors dark in order to save our eyeballs, essentially. We want to let the least amount of light into our eyes as possible so that our eyes don't get strained. So as someone with low vision, we often navigate the web with low contrast and with the contrast flipped so that we're letting the least amount of light into our eyes. So we can visit Hacker News, which is very, popular in the developer community, and if we turn up our high contrast, it gets worse and worse rather than better and better. And the visited links, in fact, go away if you turn it up high enough, which is not good. Originally, they're a little bit grayed out, but they go away with our high contrast. And if we flip into other inverted color mode, it is still pretty bad. Now, if we visit something like Apple, which is simple black and white, there's not a lot of gray on their site. It ends up being very good. So we can continue in low contrast into colorblind modes that we saw a little bit of earlier. And statistically, we probably have maybe a couple colorblind people in the room. So this chart may not look much different as I flip through these slides if you are colorblind, but there are red and green delineations for wins and losses in the English Barclays Football League, and the red and green colors look like just gray swatches for our colorblind users. So we want to really think about that since wins and losses are a little bit different. Let's jump into mobility impairment. We want to think of people with fine motor control, limited movement, low strength, and possibly single-handedness. again, if we break our hands, use our keyboards exclusively. Here are some foot pedals that people with mobility impairments may be able to use. And in this case, we want to make our click targets pretty big so that we can aim correctly at elements on our screen. Here is a single-handed keyboard, and here is an image of someone who is using a vision control screen so that they can use the web or any device that they're trying to use. Voice control is another really big popular technology tool right now, not only for people who have mobility impairments, but just in the population in general. Voice control also uses DOM elements, so we can think of things back in our Home Depot example. Our shop by department would be something like click shop by department, or click one of these departments like electrical. Or if we want to go maybe click this search button, what would we click at that point, since we're just clicking a button? Would we say click button? You don't know that as a user of the site. So we want to be really careful with our tags there and using a background image as an element. We need to tag it appropriately underneath. So this would just be button. And that's probably not ideal for someone who is using voice control. How am I doing on time?
5 minutes and then leave some time for questions.
Okay, I'm gonna go through quick.
Okay.
We don't want to have our focus should not be taken away, as we talked about earlier. Never do this, ever. We can take a quick look at Twitter and what they have done to their site recently. Let me go here. So if we try and tab through Twitter, our focus element has been taken away. I don't know when this happened. It wasn't this way, but it's actually a very subtle transition. You can see it sort of going from gray to blue, but the focus element has been completely taken away recently. Whereas if we go to Apple, you can see this nice big focus box around each of our links. So that's what we want that to look like. Here, for shortcuts, we really never want to override the defaults. Our standard shortcuts should always perform the default action. Jumping into cognitive impairment quickly, sorry, I'm running a little low on time. We want to think about people with reading disorders or schizophrenia, memory loss, or people who have had a stroke. So we want to look at our on-screen content and not make it too busy. We want to keep things around like maybe a 6th grade reading level. So if we jump into something like the New York Times, this is a great example for something like a newspaper, but if you have a new startup, you probably don't want this much content on your page. We want to look at form design. I have a demo here that shows why placeholders are not ideal. You generally want labels next to your form fields so that your users with memory loss or just normal users to get distracted and come back and they filled a form out halfway, don't forget what they're filling out. And if we look at this again, you can see most of our content is on the left-hand side of the page. Our first name, our company name, our address, our city, but the last name is on the other side of the page. So if someone who has low vision has zoomed in very far, they're not going to notice that the last name field is actually on the right-hand side of the page rather than this company name is right below. So you end up getting a lot of errors when you're filling out content. Swinging quickly into neurological impairments, we want to think of people who have epilepsy, Parkinson's, vertigo, multiple sclerosis, etc. So there's a very big trend right now in videos on homepages like Airbnb does here. And it's a very subtle video but we want to think of these users and see if this might cause a distraction for them. I found an interesting one for Maui, and this video is a little bit intense. I apologize if anyone feels a little sick here. Look, it feels like you're sticking your head out of a car window, looking upwards at trees, driving 90 miles an hour down the highway.
The image was intense before you started it.
So we want to think of also people who have hearing loss, to think maybe they assume they're missing out on content here, or maybe they're looking for more content that might be missing. So jump into hearing impairment here. I'm gonna go quickly through these, but we want to look at our videos and podcasts and see if we're transcribing them, or if we have closed captioning. Again, looking at this Airbnb website, just thinking, are we leaving people out? So how can designers and developers improve this? We can improve screen readers, or I guess we can improve screen readers. A subset of us can who work on those tools, but we can improve our content so that screen readers have a easier time. I have a demo here of the New York Times. It's actually a wonderful website to use with a screen reader. It has a hidden navigation link, skip to nav, and skip to main content, but I will skip over that quickly. Come see me later if you want to check it out. But it's great to be able to use. I have a lot of these slides.
Heading level.
There it is. So recapping the good on the screen reader demo for the New York Times, it had a skip to navigation, it had a skip to content, had a top stories heading, everything was properly labeled, set heading level 1, and it had our clear ideas, our buttons, and our links all correctly labeled. Again, overviewing our screen readers. And with our transcripts, I found a great one on the Ruby Rogues podcast. They have a transcript for every episode. Closed captioning, we want to think about that for our people who are hard of hearing or have hearing loss completely. Kickstarter did a great thing recently where they added closed captioning for all of their videos. I heard Kickstarter mentioned earlier. So you can now add a transcript or a closed caption to your video, which is great for anyone to be able to do. Audio description is another key thing that Netflix has recently added for one show in particular called Marvel's Daredevil. It's about a blind superhero, and they initially released it without any audio description, and I know that the blind and low vision community has been asking Netflix for years to be able to have audio description, and they finally added it for Marvel's Daredevil, so it's great. We want to think, again, about our content, our typography, our text size, our readability. There's a great book called Type on Screen by Ellen Lupton. If you are interested in design and layout, that's a great one. Again, for our form layout, we want to be careful. Our complex form here that I described earlier can be simplified into one column, first name, last name, and then you click a next button to proceed if you were running out of room. And we talked about click targets a little bit. I'll do a quick demo here of a small click target, and my inaccuracy is pretty high, trying to click small red dots that are appearing if things are small and spread apart. But if things are larger and more together, I'm much more accurate. So this is known as Fitz's law, and it is the human ability to click on things that are, with our wired dexterity and things like that. So take a look at that. Take a look at fixed scaling versus, so that's where you zoom in a web page and it does not change, it just becomes bigger, versus relative zooming that does change the content, it adjusts it overall as you zoom in, but I know there's a lot of back and forth in the community between which is better, and I think that you know, arguments are good and bad either way, but just as long as your website works, make sure it still works. So how can designers and developers integrate this? We can use linters that capture our content as we're pushing it to GitHub or whatever other route we use. There's a great one, Access Lint. I hear you can talk to Cameron over here about this. There are many others out there, and they'll just do a quick check of your HTML. We can use checklists. Accessibility is not about checklists, but if it helps us in our process, that can be a good thing. There's a great one by W3C and by A11. We can integrate into our workflow, we can advocate, we can try assistive technologies out ourselves and try our screen readers, try using voice control, things like that. And we can find user groups, we can do audits, and that's it. Thank you.
I do have one quick question about the focus outline now, was it? That we don't use? Was that the phrasing?
Yes.
I've not done that before, so. Can that be overridden with local style sheets?
Yes.
Okay, so people can work around that
There's
themselves
a-
to some extent?
There's a sequence. A local style sheet can get overwritten by a bang important,
Okay.
but a local style sheet with bang important trumps
So
everything.
it is possible for, like,
Yes.
even if people weren't wanting to do that themselves, the browser plugins can help read it. Okay, perfect. Good to know.
The question was about focus, outline, none, and the solution was that some browsers can, or users can override that. And some websites have implemented it very hard-coded as important, so. Any more questions? Back there.
I have like a two-part question. Is there like a prominent screen reader that people should test on, and like what accounts for the discrepancies between them? And is there any work in terms of like setting like a user agent or something when it comes to browsing the internet with a screen reader?
The question is there, we've opened another can of worms. Is there a better screen reader to test on? Is there one we should make sure works? And is there a user agent
Yeah, like so you could detect when the screen reader is being used.
to detect whether a screen reader is being used? The answer to the, is there a better screen reader to test on? I don't, it depends on what tools you have available to your team, I suppose. If you only have Apple devices and you can only test on that, that is at least something to work towards. And I know that ARIA is doing a lot, and the W3C to make the standards sort of general across the screen readers, and hopefully they should hook on to the proper HTML elements and things like that. As far as user agents, I believe that there are ways to track whether people are using devices, but a lot of people do turn them off. I'm not sure if that is around anymore. I know that it used to be. I know my mom for a long time didn't want people to know that she was using a screen reader on their site. She disabled it. I'm not sure if that's even a feature anymore though.
And that's also like a page load issue, you know, browser sniffing for, you know, and with all this stuff going on about performance, it's just good to, I'm sorry.
One more question.
Okay, one more.
I just want to comment on that. On a PC, if you're using like NVDA or JAWS, those are laying on top of an operating system, so they cannot be sniffed by a browser the same way the browser would be able to sniff and say, I've got Photoshop open. So that's a problem.
So you can detect screen readers, but those are actually considered bugs that the browser vendors try to fix.
Yeah.
So so similar to that capture thing that Google has, that kind of can tell whether you're using a keyboard or not, whether you're a robot. But you should. It's considered. I mean, you can speak to some of the people with disabilities. It's considered a privacy violation to try to do that because people don't want to know. Don't want you to know that they're disability.
Great.
Hence can of worms.
Okay.
It's kind of work.
Perfect. On that note.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chandra.